Greetings and welcome to the People's Movement Show. Of course, as promised, this is a special edition. Thank you for waiting, those of you who were there on Facebook searching for the broadcast. We're here now, and I'm certainly grateful about your being this patient. We're happy that we're able to have this broadcast done this evening, one that is most necessary and pertinent. If you do not mind, would you be kind enough to let me know whether you can see and you can also hear clearly so that we can proceed with our discussion. We have in studio this evening Mr. Norris Witter, as promised. He's in the background, and he will be the center of attention this evening in reference to our discussion. The People's Movement happens to be a group of individuals spread all across the diaspora and also the nation, who have an understanding about our responsibility as relates to Guyana. We must have the courage, we must have the strength to be able to speak to matters of national interest and things that are important to us. We believe that we should hold every elected official and those who've been selected to serve, which happen to be the majority of them, we believe that they should be held accountable. We believe with understanding that they are the servants of the people. We must have that very clear. Especially those who are called constitutional officers, you call them parliamentarians. In the case of Irfan Ali, he's the president, paid to be. Mark Phillips is paid to be prime minister. Guyana does not have anything called a vice president in reference to a particular substantive post, as Jagdeo is flaunted as being. He's not. We're not the USA. We do not have that constitution that affords for there to be Jagdeo floating around as a vice president with all kind of power. He's not likened to Kamala Harris. And I must make that clear to you. The first vice president of this country is Mark Phillips because he is the prime minister. Jagdeo may be the second vice president, but he's not Vice President Jagdeo with all kind of power. And that's important. It's necessary because you must understand how our country is supposed to be governed. Guyana is supposed to be governed democratically, which means that the people govern by representation. The People's Movement, therefore, understand this. And we believe that we should have the right, as Guyanese, who govern our country, to speak to matters that relate to the same. We are called the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. A republic means a nation that is governed by the people. So we call democratic in reference to our system of governance, and then we call a republic, which speaks to the fact that people govern in both instances. And as the movement, we believe that collectively, the people can move this nation forward. In the past few days, Irfan Ali, who is paid to be president, and I refer to that with very much intent, because we are yet to have a very conclusive matter or decision made regarding what happened in March of 2020. And until every Guyanese has the right to hear in a court of law what happened, then I have no right to respect anybody as being truly anything in reference to political office. But we have had Irfan Ali announcing that public servants, including constitutional officers, will receive an 8% increase. This evening, Mr. Norris Witter, who happens to be a trade union leader in Guyana, one with quite a lot of experience, he will discuss this with us. And we want to speak to whether this is acceptable in reference to the employees and the union members. We want to speak to whether there was any negotiation between the administration and the unions. We want to speak to whether there's been the true spirit of democracy and decency exhibited by Irfan Ali's, or I should say Jagdeo's, regime. We have a unique situation in this country in which Ashni Singh is described as the senior minister within the office of the president with responsibility for finance. It is embarrassing. It is disgusting to know that after decades, 5 decades of being an independent nation, Guyana still don't, at this stage, we do not have, in this instant, someone with common sense to know that there's nothing indeed that's called a senior minister within the office of the president with responsibility for finance, and there's no one labeled as the minister of finance. This is the first time that I'm hearing of this nonsense. So Ashton Singh has said that they had to consider things like inflation before making a decision as to how much public servants should get. Because his argument is that if they should give public servants too much, then there's likely going to be inflation and skyrocketing of prices even more. So what do? In his reasoning, you give them less to maintain a certain climate in reference to economics. Mr. Witter can speak to that, I'm sure. While we're here, please note that Facebook has restricted my account based on reports and other things. And as a result of that, it would not reach as many of you as it usually would. And so if you don't mind, please share the broadcast as often as you can, just for this moment, for the next 23 or so days until we resolve this matter. Because I've appealed to Facebook about this foolishness. They've restricted this account, and so it would not be able to reach the hundreds of thousands as it normally do. So let's be careful, or be mindful of that, so that you can, or the thousands, I should say, the tens of thousands, and let us ensure that we share this broadcast so that we can overcome this nonsense of Zuckerberg's. I will now bring into the studio Mr. Jinnah, our brother, who is no stranger to this platform, and he would be introducing, based on his knowledge of and his interaction with Mr. Witter. He should be doing that, introducing the person of Mr. Norris Witter. And then we'd go engage in our discussion. You would want to stay tuned to this because this is supposed to be quite informative and most provocative. Mr. Brother Jinnah, over to you.
Welcome everyone as usual. We running late. We apologize for that. We have our guest here on today's show, Mr. Norris Witter, who is the president of the General Workers Union. General Workers Union it's a trade union that represents workers in different sector of the economy, mainly banks, DIH workers, workers in the rice industry that works at the Guyana Rice Development Board. Mr. Witter is one of the most knowledgeable trade unionists in this country, I would say. You know, I've known him for more than 20 years and I've worked very closely with him. And I have the pleasure of introducing him today to today's discussion. And I'm hoping that you will have a lot of questions to ask, and you can table your questions so we can then get him to answer them. Mr. Witter, welcome to the program, People's Program, which is really widely seen by a lot of people. And so therefore, we welcome you here today. Are you hearing us, Mr. Witter?
Thank you very much, Jinnah, for what must be considered a very generous introduction. And may I also express to Nigel my great appreciation for him agreeing to have me on his program tonight, the People's Movement. Unfortunately, I may not be able to be on the program for the time allotted because of another engagement. However, as succinct as I may be, I will endeavor to do justice to the topic I'm asked to speak on. Now, you've asked me to express my perspective as it relates to the recent 8% across the board increase to public servants. Now, may I also extend greetings to those who are viewing this podcast. For one to have an understanding and appreciation as to what this 8% imposition means, it is necessary for me, first of all, to establish a context. One, it is my view that President Ali, a relatively young man by all respects, may very well go down in history as the worst president this country has ever experienced. And why do I say this? Since the assumption to office of President Ali in 2020, over that 3 years period, 3 budgets were presented: 2020, 2021, and 2022. In the 2020 budget, no allocation for increases in pay was made for public servants. So the public servant in the year 2020 got 0 increase. In 2021, there was an imposition of 7%. And now in 2022, an imposition of 8%. That translates to approximately, over the 3 years period, an average of 5%. Now, while the 8% is in itself unconscionable, ridiculous, contemptuous, and an insult to the working people in Guyana, and first let me address the question of the insult and the unconscionableness and the contemptuousness of the 8%. That 8% will increase the minimum pay of a public servant from $74,900 per month to $80,829 per month. It is an increase of less than $6,000 per month to the minimum salary of a public servant.
Now, Mr. Witter, permit me at
One
this
must
moment.
look at that.
Can you hear me? Permit me to ask you
Yes,
something.
thanks.
Because you speak to the imposition. And for those who are unfamiliar with that term in reference to trade unionism and how things function, why would you say that it's an imposition of the 7% and an imposition of 8%? Because that is very, very important to this discussion.
Okay. What it's meant by an imposition is where an employer, and in this instance, the state, as a very large employer, has decided to ignore the Constitution, ignore laws of Guyana, ignore ILO Conventions 98, ignore the Charter of Civil Society, ignore the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas and other treaties, and also ignore, and not only ignore, but violate with impunity the Constitution, the laws, the treaties, the charters, and time-honored agreement. I'm glad that you have asked that.
Yes.
Because it is being bandied that Guyana is supposed to be a democracy. However, in a democracy suggests that the state is rule-based.
Right.
And who governs state will have respect and regard for the rule of law, the Constitution, the statutes, civil law, agreements, charters, conventions, and so forth. What the president did, coming back to the question of imposition, what an imposition means is where the employer arbitrarily, unilaterally, in flagrant violation of the Constitution, laws, charters, and conventions, applies or give effect to an increase to workers contemptuous of those laws that are referred to which the state as an employer and President Ali as a functionary of the state is obligated to respect and to honor.
Permit me to
However,
interject. Permit me if I can, and this is mainly for emphasis and reinforcement, because what happens every so often, Mr. Witt, is that certain things would bypass the hearing of Guyanese, unfortunately so. And some people do not get the point at times. And our responsibility here on this platform, the People's Movement, is to inform, educate, and in some cases re-educate Guyanese, never to misinform them. And you said something that I don't want people to miss. It is actually enshrined in our Constitution that there should be interaction between the state and the representatives of workers, which would be the union in this case, in reference to salaries and wages. Am I correct?
As it relates to what is normally referred to as dialogue, right?
Industrial
bargaining. All these, definitely, right? Where the state has an obligation as an employer to engage not only, well, in respect to the question of wage increases and conditions of work, matters of an industrial relations matter. They have an obligation under the Constitution, the law, laws of Guyana, conventions and treaties to engage unions that have recognition rights with the state in collective bargaining. and not only engage them in collective bargaining, but they must engage them in good faith
Correct.
in the process of collective bargaining. So there must be a willingness to listen to the other party and based on reasonableness, given the information, the facts, the particulars that would have been presented by the other party, arrive hopefully mutually at a reasonable conclusion. Therefore, what it suggests that there must be give and take, and the end product must be one that was informed by way of compromise.
So in this case, in this instance, when we saw as Guyanese, Irfan Ali giving an address to the state saying that there will be, as of December, this 8% increase, and he included himself as a constitutional officer. We are all now aware that this was done without having any engagement between what is called the administration, or some people say the government. I'd rather not say that because the government includes the opposition. But there was no collective bargaining, no agreements made, no arguments posited from your side or the side of the public service. And Ali just decided, or through whomever it is, that this will be what you will get. Is that what every Guyanese in the simplest of terms should gather from your presentation here?
Precisely.
Oh my God.
Where these guys just decide on their own, right? In flagrant violation of what those laws and conventions that I made reference to. Flagrant violation of that. And that is why I'm saying, right, that it questions whether we are truly operating within a democratic state, right? Because one will expect that Ali, as a guardian of the Constitution and the laws of Guyana, right, would have been the person foremost in ensuring that that there was no act of imposition, right? That collective bargaining as a sacred constitutional and legal process was allowed to function.
That's so unfortunate.
Now, but
and you also spoke, Mr. Witter, to
most unfortunate,
the insulting aspect of it. And I can
yeah,
now why you said
yeah.
that, but please,
Now,
for the sake of the viewers, tell us why it's
good,
insulting
fine.
to you. I mean, I understand the insult, but please
Now,
help us more.
Good. Okay. So as damning as the imposition will be, right? Let us now look at the quantum, the percentage increase that was, I wouldn't even want to use the word imposition now, right? That was shoved down the throat of the public servant.
I like that.
As I told you earlier, with the 8% imposition, the minimum wage of the public servants will now be pegged at $80,829 per month. Now, Dr. Nanda Kishore Gopal, a former labor minister of the PPP government, a senior veteran trade unionist, a high functionary of the government. He's currently a high functionary of the government. About 3 weeks ago, at the opening of NACI's conference, that is the conference of one of the unions within the sugar belt, expressed words to this effect: that the workers of this country deserves a living wage, that the collective bargaining process must be respected. Workers should enjoy increases from the commencement of the year, that is from January, and not in November and December. Since when the payments are made in November and December and not in January, they would have suffered a natural or nominal loss in terms of the purchasing power of the dollar. Now, it must be noted that agreements and laws ought to be prospective going forward and not retrospective.
Correct.
So, whenever there is an imposition, let's say after the month of January, it means that whatever is to be paid will have to be paid retrospectively going back to January. That ought not to be, right? So here again, there's a flagrant, even with imposition, there's a flagrant violation of the concept of the prospective nature of agreements and laws. But going back to what Gopal said, he also said that very often he's being told by persons within the working class that, you know, Chief, we live in a rich country with poor people. He said this has been, you know, a cliche. Most persons he meet from the working class, they will say this to him. When in highlighting the need for a living wage, he made reference to the cost of some of utilities like water, electricity, telephone, and then he added rent. That came up to approximately $36,000 per month. The reputable accounting firm of Ram and McCray, over 6 months ago, did a partial survey that took account of only groceries, foodstuff for a family of 5.
Mm-hmm.
Excluded things like rent, utilities, clothing, and so on. Just foodstuff. And that came up to $117,000 per month. And at that time, that figure was considered to be conservative. Conservative. Yes. So if one were to add Ram and McCray's conservative figure for groceries onto Dr. Gopal figures for utilities and rent, that will take us beyond $150,000 per month. And that in itself cannot be considered a living wage, because a living wage must take care of your groceries, it must take care of your utilities, right? You must have something to save, it must take care of your clothing, education, right? And even there must be something in there for relaxation.
Enjoyment, correct.
Right? So, definitely. Yes, Alan? So, $150,000 is way short of that living wage. Further, Dr. Vishnu Durga, a businessman and business consultant, about 3 weeks ago on a social media platform said words to this effect, that he finds it inconceivable for a family to survive on less than $100,000 per month. I want you to take note of the persons and the form that I referenced. Dr. Nanda Gopal, Dr. Durga, and Rama Mukri. What is common in those names and forms I've called? It cannot be argued that none of those individuals and the form are opposition political persons. It cannot be argued that they are race-based, right? They are all Indians, and I suspect, apart from Nando Gopal, who is a member of the PPP, that others may have sympathy for the PPP. Because very often, whenever this state is criticized, they are quick to put a political, ethnic, and racial twist to it. Right? So, I want to make it very clear. And I want those who are listening, right, not to be persuaded by cheap politics, by demagogues who will attempt to play on their emotion, whether racial or religious, right, in order to misguide, misinform, right, and to wickedly create discord and division among the working people.
And
let me say this.
Go ahead.
Yeah, let me say this. I think that we have an obligation to ensure that the workers in this country across race and political persuasion are given the facts. Because I do believe that the workers, once educated, have the capacity to reason and to take action where necessary to deal with recalcitrant, wicked, deceitful, and devious political leadership. Because what we are experiencing here now with this imposition is deceit of the highest order, right? We are experiencing an act that is so contemptuous that it just falls short of being criminal. And I want to say to this regime and any other regime that if perchance you are of the view that the workers of this country have lost the will to fight or to struggle, you are making a sad mistake. Because in the same manner in which,
yes, sorry,
the same manner in which
you headed to where I want to get.
The enslaved people,
so I'll interrupt you every so often,
were able to free themselves from slavery, and the indentured were able to free themselves from indentureship. The descendants of the enslaved people
Are you hearing me?
Yes, are you hearing me?
Okay, I can hear you. But the
You can hear me?
path in which
Yes.
you've, yes, in church
Yes.
circles,
I'm
they say
saying
that
that.
you're in the spirit because you headed down the path
Yeah. I'm
that I
saying that
wanted to get from you.
in in in
What is it?
in like
Good.
manner, yeah, in like manner in which the enslaved people were able to free themselves from slavery, and the indentured to free themselves from indentureship, that the workers of this country, African Guyanese, Indian Guyanese, Amerindian Guyanese, across race, will free themselves from this regime that is practicing tyrannical behavior. And it is, hello?
So we have a slight delay, but you're still here. I'm still here as well. But there, and for the viewers, there is a delay in reference to my interaction with Mr. Witter. But we're still here, and I can hear you if you can. And we have, as I was saying, Mr. Witter is in the spirit, as they say in church, in the church circles, because he was going down the path of what are you prepared to do? That would have been about the final question that I've had for Mr. Witter. What is it that you're prepared to do in reference to workers? What are the workers prepared to do in response to this? Because this, if you've heard, and Mr. Witter is seeking to have his broadcast restored and so on, but if you've heard, there's what the union term is an imposition, meaning that Irfan Ali, and I see this Jagdeo who has the power to make certain decisions because his signature is on the $2,000 bill as Minister of Finance, whatever it's supposed to be. And I'm telling you this for a reason, because generally the Minister of Finance has a lot to do with these decisions. Ashley Singh is put to the front to say, well, okay, then he decided and they made certain considerations. But we must, as Guyanese, recognize where the law, where protocol, where understanding of certain treaties is now being tossed out of the window in typical fashion. Let's not lose sight of that. This is the normal behavior. So, Mr. Witter, are you still there? We're trying to get Mr. Witter back. Brother Jenna is still with us. He's in the background listening attentively. Brother Jenna, you've heard of the total disregard for what is law, what are treaties, and what are just basic courtesies that should be extended to any worker representative. Based on Mr. Witter says so far, can you share your thoughts regarding this Ali regime?
It's an
And
important
what
word
they do?
in this whole discussion, which is called collective bargaining. Trade union, the history of the trade union movement, which goes back for nearly a century or more than a century, was based on negotiation between the employer class and the employee class, which is the workers. The trade union is the representatives of the working class. And in their negotiations, the laws are made where they're able to sit and talk and discuss issues that affect the work, not only on wages. In this situation, we're discussing wages, but the thousands of workers and women and young workers in particular who are highly underpaid and their conditions of work are horrible. They work long hours, 10 hours, without any extra remuneration. And you'll be very surprised that a lot of the workers, security guards, and these kinds of people are not even their national insurance, which is a law that an employer is supposed to actually uh, ensure that the workers are insured by law, national insurance. They're supposed to get a national insurance card, a number, so they can make their contributions and the employer can make his or her contribution. That is violated. So there you have a long list of laws that Mr. Witters mentioned that are based on collective bargaining that are completely and absolutely violated, not only by this government, but previous governments. Laws that are passed in our parliament that the workers are not aware of, that their rights and um, their human rights are being violated. And in many cases, people in this country don't get jobs based on mediocrity. That is there because they are capable of doing it. They jobs are given to people because they're members of political party. The political party that's in office. The PNC did it. It is a continuation of the PPP. And one has to ask the question: what is the difference between the PNC and the PPP in modern society? We saw the last government, Granger, when he was the president of this country, has not made any any laws in this country to protect the rights of the most low wage workers. I mean I mean they did make some changes in terms of raising their salary and so on, but they did not stabilize it. You see, workers have to. What we need to establish rights of workers is the possibility of them able to use the legal system that is the court. So if Mr. Granger had set up the industrial court as we have in Trinidad or United Kingdom or in other countries, even Trinidad has an industrial court where the workers individually or collectively can take an employer to the court and get justice without having to go on strike.
Right.
To go on strike is the last resort of the workers because they have the right also to withdraw their labor. And when they go on demonstration,
Well, if I may, and Mr. Witter seems to be having a challenge in reference to the internet for those viewing. And let me just interject to inform the viewers again that Facebook has restricted my account because, and I need to tell you this why. I was interviewed by Marcia Weeks a few days ago on Carib Vision TV, that's a Barbadian television network, and or channel. The image that she advertised the show with, both that of an African man tied to a tree, and he wore long pants. Of course, he was being beaten. Facebook labeled that as nudity. Now, that is most ludicrous because if you see how women present themselves in reference to dancing and so on, and it's shared all across the world, that's not nudity. But sharing the plight of an African in history, Facebook has restricted my account for 24 days, so they hardly allow viewers who follow me or followers to see when I'm live and see what I post. I'm saying that to ask you who are on this broadcast and hearing me clearly to please share this as often as you can so that we can beat this system while I appeal this, hopefully, to one of Zuckerberg's minions, because this is just unacceptable and stupid. But I wanted that to be clear to the viewers by the as to why they're not seeing, in some cases, my being here.
viewers can use YouTube because this facility allows you to use to receive us on YouTube. So we need to use. You're right. We need to announce that we use as the widest possible resource medium to actually get the message across. But I think Mr. Witter said enough, even if he doesn't come back.
He has, and permit me, because what I want us to really have a very focused few minutes that remain on is in relation to what Mr. Witt has said. And I reiterate this for the purpose of those who remember that those who were called the guardians of democracy. Remember that? And they were standing there with all kinds of things in hand, so that they're prepared to die, in essence, protecting containers with ballot boxes in them. Yet, in those boxes be discovered in the illegal recount process, that the same boxes they were guarded in have statutory documents in them, lack so many things, but they were guarded in nonetheless. Now, the said people are silent when the working class, when the public servants are being treated in a manner that is rife with dictatorial characteristics. Irfan Ali was one of those who stood and said he's for democracy. I would never describe Jagdeo as anything being close to democratic, so he's out of the picture altogether. But Ali, being a newcomer to what is called presidency, wants to present himself as though he's prepared to engage and consult with people. And Brother Genevieve hearing here that the unions were not even invited to a conversation, but rather they just received what we did, which was, this is what you get, regardless of treaties, regardless of conventions, regardless of anything. But I want to take you to this part, Brother Jinnah. The latter statement, in which Mr. Witter was saying that the workers, both of African descent and Indian descent, are prepared to fight against what we see. And I don't want viewers to miss that statement. They are prepared, in essence, and I'm paraphrasing here, to resist this imposition because it is an insult when elements or individuals who are known to be good in reference to business and accounting can say that what the minimum wage is, and even stepping up to almost the middle class wage in reference to the public service. It is ridiculous. You can't survive on it. And we've been saying that for quite a long time. Now we're hearing that the workers are prepared to resist this. In your view, Brother Jinnah, what do you see as some of the reactions that will come from the union if the workers are prepared to resist this disgusting imposition?
People are largely in this country very, very frustrated, not only about the living conditions, the low wages, but also generally the way in which they have been treated. I mean, look, you read in yesterday's Kaitro news where the auditor, Mr. Sharma, has said that you can't give account for monies that have been spent out of the coffers. The Guyanese need to realize that they have a. If I give you money to go to the shop, $5,000 to go to the shop and ask you to buy a few things, which I know wouldn't cost $5,000, I expect you to come back with the change, won't I? And then I'd expect you to give me the bill to show that this is what you bought and this is the change. And if I want to give you the change, I said take a change. But you should come back with the bill and come back with a change. And that is a simple mark of accountability. You raise a number of issues there, the whole question of democracy. Democracy is not only about free and fair elections.
No.
Remember, a lot of dictators come to power on the basis of free and fair elections. Even a landslide.
Yeah.
Adolf Hitler came to power on the basis of a landslide. But look what happened. Look what happened. Millions of people were killed by Adolf Hitler or got killed in the process. And so it's a misnomer when people talk about the election. And this, I try to be a little lenient to this establishment because I believe that when you think about what the last establishment didn't do, had an opportunity to do, had the best opportunity to do on the question of unity, where the masses of people were mobilized and you had free and fair election. Even when you had free and fair election and a lot in 2015, Granger and Nagamutu came into office. Even on those bases as free and fair election, they still did not implement programs and policy that they promised people they were going to implement. Do you know that up to today, Mr. Noel Holder, as Minister of Agriculture, 5 years during his period of rule, we have never, the farmers' organization was never able to meet with Mr. Noel Holder. But yesterday, we were able to meet with the Minister of Agriculture at his office. Short as the meeting might be, but we were able to see him, talk to him. I don't know what else he will do. But the fact of the matter is that you see, you can come, the point I'm trying to make, you can come to power on the basis of, of a democratic vote. But then, if you are not respecting what people elect you, you promise them that you're going to do, especially what we're discussing, the laws of your country, that you're not prepared to uphold those laws, you, then the flaws of a democratic society, the rule of law that makes a society democratic, the rule of law. And who's supposed to uphold the law? Isn't it those who are elected, who are
More
in
than anyone
positions
else.
of authority? The police who violate the people's rights every single day? Police locking up lawyers who legitimately are supposed to represent their client. A woman was locked up and charged. I mean, what more do we need? When Mr. Witter talks about the unity of the working people and the unity of the people of different races in this country, he's right. But we have to be truthful here. With when we from the people's movement talk, we speak frankly and openly. The truth of the matter is that the administration and the last one has been allowed to get away with things because the trade union leadership is as weak as a trash, and that is why we have the situation that we have, and they're forced to actually take some sort of action because there is rebellion from below, because people are tired and fed up of the cost of living and the way in which they're treated. Guyanese are very intelligent people. You don't have to go to school to be intelligent
Yeah.
or to know what's happening. And they have shown contempt for the people. So you don't even need leaders for people to rebel. I mean, the enslaved people didn't have the kind of organized, structured trade union,
Right.
farmers organization or religious organization like yourself to mobilize them, to talk to them and get them organized. No, they didn't. They didn't have that kind of organization or structure, in a formal way. And yet they were able to resist and were able to free themselves. And if people think that when you get elected that you can do what you like, you can't, because a time comes when people will take uh, their rights into their own hands.
So thank you, Brother Jen, and of course, your points are all well taken, and given your years in reference to existence, being on this earth, you are certainly equipped to speak from experience. And we have experiences all across the world where individuals collectively decided that they would have had enough of whatever treatment they were receiving, especially that which is unjust. And they reacted in a manner that spoke to their being displeased. In some instances, it is at the polls. In other instances, it was through revolt. In some cases, it would have been through mass protesting. Whatever it is, persons do respond to draconian and tyrannical leadership. And for Irfan Ali to be as young as he is, I've always said to him that his focus should be on the legacy that he creates. It seems to me as if Jagdeo has intention to destroy anything good regarding Irfan Ali's legacy, and it's my opinion, based on what he refuses to condemn. Because there is no way that a young president would like to have the legacy that Ali is creating in this country, where he is known in this case, by his silence in the matter, to have imposed on workers in the public service without any collective bargaining agreement a disgusting 8%, a disrespectful 8%, an insulting 8%.
But brother, you know that the union, according to the law, that they have the right to challenge this abuse in the court of law. And I think an action has been filed already uh, by the Public Service Union to actually challenge this imposition. And they should go ahead with it. And even though the government might appeal against it if the judges rule in their favor, then it must end up in a Caribbean Court of Appeal, where these rights would be further established and reinforced. So I think that we need to look at these things positively, and I think we need to look at it in the sense that, look, there are thousands of people who are listening to us, who are not part and parcel of what is going on. They are not silent listeners. They are prepared to take action. Those people who are listening to us here and who are friends and relatives all over the world as Guyanese, they are prepared to make changes. That's the kind of changes Mr. Witter was talking about. People might appear to be silent, but they will take action, necessary action, when the time comes. You know,
And
let
I
me
do
say
look forward to that.
let me say this to you. As we speak at this moment, you know, I've just returned from the United Kingdom, but I follow what's happening on a daily basis through the radio station, the British radio station. To be massive strikes in the United Kingdom because of the same problems we're having here.
Yeah, the airlines in those
Same
places,
kind of
they're
disregard and
supposed to
disrespect.
strike.
The same method they are using there, the same method, and they are going to get serious problem, which will affect our economy. You know, one of the things that Ashley Singh is talking about, he mentions the crisis in this country. He mentions the war in Russia and Ukraine. Even though we are one of the fifth largest producer of oil, it still affects us. And you know, that's something that we need to talk about, because Guyana agreed with the on the contractually for ExxonMobil to have um, to get a certain amount of money or whatever. But now what has happened is that the price of oil has gone up two times or three times more. And the Guyana government, the administration here, is not saying anything about it. So what we need to do is we need to be able to put a cap on the oil, the rising price of oil, because it's violated the agreement. So Guyana is not benefiting from the rising price of oil. Who's benefiting from the rising price of oil? The oil companies in this country, ExxonMobil and the other companies, they're the ones who are benefiting from the billions, hundreds of billions of dollars that they're
Well,
benefiting.
if I may, Guyana is benefiting because as the price increases, royalties will increase, and so would also the sharing, because once Exxon covers and that's the agreement, once they cover their production cost, then you've got the 50-50 sharing and 2% royalty. So as the price for oil increases, Guyana's payout will increase. What we're not seeing, though, is the benefit
It should,
trickling down to the average Guyanese. That's what we're not seeing.
but it's not happening, because up to now, as we speak, they have not yet audited the oil companies, so we don't know exactly how much, what are the expenses and what are the income.
Well, we will talk about that, but I wanted us to devote this broadcast to Mr. Witter and to the workers across this country, to let them know that we are in solidarity with you. We are prepared to stand with you in whatever position you do, as long as the position that resists this imposition. It's an unlawful act. It is an unconstitutional act. It violates the good spirit of any treaty. And we have heard from Mr. Witter the number of treaties to which Guyana would have signed. There's the International Labour Organization, which governs how workers are treated. I spoke to that at the Millsall Primary School with the Ministry of Education. Every employee, especially in what is called the government or by the state, you have got protection by the International Labour Organization in reference to your safety. We have laws in Guyana, the Occupational Health and Safety Act. They protect workers. We've got agreements in reference to how unions are formed as long as they recognize and they represent workers. Deductions are made from people's salaries. So let us focus on that. And in due time, very soon, we'll have a discussion as to matters relating to our nation. But Brother Jinnah, thank you, and thanks to all the viewers who were here with us. Thank you for having Mr. Witter as well, one whom you know pretty well. And I'm certainly encouraged by his being this informed. One, he has a very good handle on matters relating to trade unionism, and I am grateful. Thank you again. We will meet again in short order. Hopefully we'll have Mr. Witter with us and other trade union leaders. We'll see if we can get Ms. McDonald to speak about the teachers, and hopefully we have others who will be willing to come on this platform to inform Guyanese so that we can have a clear idea about what we face. So Brother Jin, again, thank you so much. Thank to the viewers. Thanks to all of you who would have interacted. Thanks to those of you who understand that is not my issue. It is what Facebook is doing to my account. And in due season, we'll be out of this because nothing lasts forever. All right? So thank you so much. Brother Jinnah, we'll meet again, Yahweh willing. To the viewers, good night and goodbye. What an interesting discussion. Mr. Witter came, he had to, and I apologize on his behalf, he had to leave because he has, as he said, another engagement. But he would have served us well in that just before we lost connection with him, he made it clear that the workers in this country, the public servants, are not going to just lay back and allow this to happen to them. So we, the citizens, would be eager to see what would be the reaction. And I encourage every Guyanese to join them because it affects us all. This administration must have respect for law and order. They must respect the law because they claim to be guardians of democracy. They must respect the Constitution. My history, my record should show that when I came forward in July to speak to the injustice that Frank Anthony would have been meting out to Guyanese regarding the draconian vaccine and all the policies and these things, I said to you all that even before that, with the election of 2020, my interest is in officials having respect for the Constitution and for the law. You must respect the law of this country. Any leader, any politician going to disrespect this law, have no respect for you. And by that I shall live, and by that I shall die. You will respect the law of this country. It is hypocritical to say you're guardians of democracy, but you don't respect the Constitution. And this will be done to those thousands of workers in the public service. So with that, I thank you. Remember that my broadcast is being restricted in reference to who it reaches. So persons now don't even know that I'm live because of what Facebook is doing. But you can help by sharing this and making it reach them. I thank you, and do take care until we meet again.